So you have a head of state taking a dip and dissolving into sea foam. A genius locking himself in a train only to evaporate. A pilot whose plane gives a high five to a UFO on the radar before blipping out of existence. No, these aren't lazy scripts from a B-movie writer's trash can. These are actual historical moments where famous folks decided to rage quit reality, leaving us all scratching our heads. To get the full scoop, smash that like button, subscribe, and tell us which corner of the globe you are lurking in. Number 1. Usually running a country means you can't even sneeze without a bodyguard handing you a tissue. But back in 1967, Australian Prime Minister Harold Holt pulled off the ultimate disappearing act. The guy went for a casual swim at Cheviot Beach, a spot with currents so nasty they would probably mug you for your lunch money. People watched him wade into the surf and then, poof, gone. One of the biggest manhunts in Aussie history kicked off scouring the ocean, but they found absolutely zero. The official report said he drowned by accident, but let's be real, that is a total snooze fest. The rumor mill churned out way spicier theories. Was it a self-delete, a hit job? The absolute champion of crazy theories is that Holt was actually a sleeper agent for the communists and a Chinese submarine popped up just to taxi him home. It sounds like a rejected James Bond plot, but hey, it is way more fun than guy is bad at swimming. Number 2. Thomas Boston Corbett is a historical figure so nutty he feels like a cartoon character. He is famous for being the soldier who smoked Lincoln's assassin, John Wilkes Booth. But his origin story? Even weirder. The guy was a religious zealot who was so scared of ladies of the night that he used a pair of scissors to snip his own family jewels just to stay holy. Yikes. After taking out Booth, the fame went straight to his head. He started waving guns around and was finally declared totally bonkers and thrown in an asylum. But padded rooms could not hold Corbett. He busted out, somehow got his hands on a pony and galloped off into the Kansas sunset. He was never seen again. Just picture it. The guy who closed the book on the biggest manhunt in American history ended his own saga by riding a tiny horse into the void. It is the perfect level of ridiculousness. Number 3. If you want to break the law and vanish into thin air. B. Cooper wrote the textbook. In 1971, this sharp-dressed mystery man hijacked a Boeing 727. He didn't scream or throw a tantrum. He chill-ordered a bourbon and soda and slipped a note to the flight attendant saying, "Hey, I have a bomb." He asked for $200,000 and 4 parachutes. Once they gave him the loot, he told the pilot to get back in the sky. Then, in the pitch black of a thunderstorm somewhere over the jagged tree-filled, a wilderness of the Pacific Northwest, he jumped out the back door of a passenger jet with a sack of cash. Instant legend status achieved. The FBI chased his shadow for decades, only finding a rotting stack of bills years later, which just made it cooler. He didn't just get away, he exited the server, with a swagger score that nobody has ever beaten. Number 4. You have to love it when the cosmos drops a hint so heavy it cracks the pavement. Musician Jim Sullivan dropped a weird, lonely folk album in 1969 titled UFO. The songs are literally about driving into the wasteland, leaving your physical form behind, and getting beamed up by aliens. Fast forward to 1975. Jim Sullivan is cruising in his VW Beetle through the New Mexico desert when he ghosted the world. They found his car ditched on a lonely dirt track. Inside his wallet, his guitar, his clothes, and a box of those unsold records. But Jim. Not a whisker. It is one thing to get lost, but ditching your cash and your favorite acts. It is almost like he got called up for a concert in another galaxy, a gig he had been writing the set list for over the last 6 years. Number 5. In the smoky dive bars of 1950s, Greenwich Village Connie Converse was dropping beats that were decades ahead of the curve. Her songs were raw, brainy, and genius, but the squares just weren't ready for it. She grinded for years, putting her heart on the line with zero applause to show for it. By the early 1970s, bummed out and over it, she had seen enough. In 1974, she penned a bunch of peace-out letters to her crew saying she needed to hit the reset button somewhere new. She threw her life into her Volkswagen, hit the gas, and was never seen or heard from again. No crime scene, no spooky riddle, really. Just a quiet, intentional rage quit from her own life, leaving only her spooky tunes as a legacy. Number 6. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse is basically a rock in the North Atlantic designed to murder people. In December 1900, it hosted a mystery that reads like the opening scene of a horror flick. A ship sailed by and noticed the light was dead. When the backup team arrived, the vibes were off. The tower was vacant. The three keepers, Thomas, James, and Donald, had evaporated. A dinner of salted meat was sitting on the table half-eaten. One of the heavy coats was still on the hook, meaning some poor guy ran out into a hurricane in his shirt sleeves. The logbook mentioned days of nightmare winds and one of the dudes crying his eyes out. They vanished from a sealed building on a lonely rock, leaving behind a creepy snapshot of a moment. Gone wrong. Number 7. This tale is either a sad riddle or the greatest corporate hustle of all time. In the 1880s, a quirky British tinkerer, named William Cantello, was sweating in a hidden garage trying to build a tool that would redefine combat the machine gun. Then, out of nowhere, he drained his bank account and pulled a Houdini. A hot second later, an American inventor who just landed in London, Hiram Maxim, showed off the Maxim gun. It was a game-changer that made him filthy rich and a celebrity. The kicker, Cantello's own kids were dead sure that Hiram Maxim was their missing dad hiding behind a fake name and a mustache. Did he vanish? Or did he just rebrand himself and sell his world-ending toy as someone else? Number 8. Amelia Earhart is the undisputed heavyweight champion of hide-and-seek. Her 1937 disappearance over the Pacific is the stuff of legend. While most folks figure she just ran out of gas and took a swim, the rabbit hole of wild guesses is way more fun to dive into. The search was gigantic, but nobody ever found a single bolt or propeller. This lack of evidence has spawned some truly bananas theories. One wild theory reckons she was actually 007 for the feds got snagged by the Japanese military and met a grim end in a cell. But get a load of this absolute cracker, the Jersey housewife conspiracy. This one claims our gal didn't crash at all, but secretly came home and chilled out for decades as some lady named Irene Bolam. Folks even claim they look like twins. Just picture it, the Indiana Jones of the skies trading her cockpit for petunias in the burbs. Talk about a plot twist. 9. Judge Joseph Forscrater wasn't just some guy who ghosted. He literally became the definition of ghosting. Back in 1930, if you bailed, folks said you pulled a crater. This high court bigwig was thick as thieves with the shady Tammany Hall crew. So, August 6, 1930, he grabs a bite with pal Steps. Onto the street flags a cab and poof vanishes into thin air. Turns out he'd just drained his bank account and shredded a bunch of papers, which usually screams, "I'm fleeing the country" or "someone's got dirt on me." Did the mob whack him to keep him quiet? Did he hop a steamer with a secret side piece to live la vida loca? The guy became headline news, the missingest man in New York. He didn't just leave town, he became a permanent fixture in the local slang dictionary. 10. Being born a Rockefeller basically means you win the lottery of life. Richest, strongest family on earth, you don't just drop off the map. But Michael wasn't about that suit and tie life. He was an anthropology nerd obsessed with remote tribes in New Guinea. In 1961, while out exploring, his boat flipped. He told his buddy to hang tight with the wreck and made the fatal choice to doggy paddle for the coast. He never showed up. The police report said drowning. But here's the kicker. The beach he was aiming for was Asmat territory. These guys were famous for collecting heads and, let's say, diverse culinary habits. The dark rumor that stuck around for ages is that this scion of an American dynasty ended up as the main course at a tribal feast. It is a gruesome mashup of high society meeting the Stone Age. 11. Picture being the queen of murder mysteries, then literally turning into the lead character of your own whodunit. That is precisely what he went down with Agatha Christie in 1926. Hubby was stepping out on her, so she naturally freaked out and disappeared for 11 days. They found her ride dumped by a lake, kicking off a massive manhunt with cops, volunteers, and even other writers joining the dragnet. Everyone thought she was toast. Then, surprise. She pops up at a fancy spa, checked in using the name of her husband's girlfriend. Her excuse? Oops, total memory loss. Was it a mental snap from the stress, a genius marketing ploy? Or the pettiest, most brilliant passive-aggressive revenge scheme in history to shame her cheating spouse? We will never know for sure, but she basically pulled a Gone Girl decades before it was cool. 12. Some vanishings are weird. Others are full-on alien stole my homework weird. The Saga of Air Force. Pilot Felix Moncla in 1953 is definitely the second type. Right at the peak of Cold War UFO hysteria, Moncla got sent up to chase a bogey spotted on radar over Lake Superior. Ground control watched their screens totally confused as the two blips Moncla's F-89 Scorpion and the mystery craft got cozy. Then the impossible happened. The two dots merged into one single dot, pulled a U-turn and zipped off at warp speed. They never found a scrap of Moncla's jet. He didn't just disappear chasing a saucer. The radar makes it look like the UFO literally ate his plane for lunch. 13. Back in 1944, Glenn Miller was essentially the biggest pop star on the planet. His tunes were the anthem for the war generation. Think Taylor Swift levels of fame, but with a trombone. As an army major, he was hopping a flight from England to a liberated Paris to rock a Christmas show for the boys. His tiny single-engine bird took off into the soup over the channel and just deleted itself. No mayday, no debris, no oil slick. Zilch. For a plane to vanish in one of the most crowded watched patches of sky and sea during a war is absolutely bonkers. People guess it was the fog or maybe getting clobbered by bombs dumped by returning Allied planes, but the zero evidence leaves Glenn Miller's fate as one of the war's biggest question marks. 14. Barbara Newhall Follett was a straight-up prodigy, a kid genius who dropped a critically acclaimed novel at 13. But the crushing weight of growing up famous wrecked her. By 25, she was stuck in a bad marriage, typing memos as a secretary, feeling like her artistic fire had burned out. In December 1939, after a fight with her guy, she bounced from their flat with $30 to her name. That was it. The creepiest part. The silence. Her husband's sketchy alert waited 2 whole weeks to tell the cops she was gone. Did she just pack up? To start over as a nobody? Did she end it all? Or was there something way nastier happening at home? The brilliant kid who built entire universes with her typewriter just evaporated from the real world. 15. Roald Amundsen was an absolute beast of an explorer, a legend who tamed the meanest spots on the map. First guy to the South Pole, first to navigate the Northwest Passage. The dude was basically unkillable, which makes his final act insanely ironic. In 1928, his arch-nemesis Italian guy, Umberto Nobile, crashed his Zeppelin in the Arctic. Even though he couldn't stand the guy, Amundsen jumped in to help. The ultimate survivor hopped in a French seaplane to rescue his rival and flew straight into nothingness. His ride disappeared into the icy mist. The man who owned the poles vanished trying to save a hater swallowed up by the same frozen wasteland he used to rule. It was a confusing and clumsy final act for a legend. 16. You want creepy? Check out the last transmission from Aussie pilot Frederick Valentich. It's pure nightmare fuel. Back in 1978, this 20-year-old is cruising in his little Cessna over the Bass Strait when he buzzes the tower about some weird bogey on his tail, in a super confused voice. He describes a giant, shiny metal thing with 4 green lights zipping around. Like physics is just a suggestion. He tells air traffic control. That is definitely not a plane. Then cue 17 seconds of freaky metal scraping sounds before the radio just dies. Valentich and his ride? Gone. Poof. They searched everywhere but found 0 wreckage, leaving only that terrifying final recording as proof he met something. 17. Hollywood 1949. Jean Spangler is an up-and-coming actress ready to pop. She had bit parts and huge dreams, but her story took a weird left turn. One night, she tells the in-laws she's meeting her ex-husband, then heading to a movie set for a night shoot. She never came back. 2 days later, her purse shows up in an L.A. park. Inside A. Creepy unfinished note to some guy named Kirk saying, "Can't wait anymore going to see Dr. Scott? Best do this while mom's away." Naturally, everyone lost their minds over it. Who's Kirk? Kirk Douglas, she did work with him. Was she getting a shady back alley procedure from this Dr. Scott? The police? hit nothing but brick walls. Spangler basically evaporated into the smog of the very city she wanted to own. 18. To his crew, Wallace Fard Muhammad wasn't just a dude. He was literally God on earth, founder of the Nation of Islam. In the 1930s, he built this massive movement from nothing, mixing black nationalism with religion like a pro. He was charming but totally mysterious, with more aliases than a spy. He had his followers wrapped around his finger, including a young Elijah Muhammad. Then in 1934, after some beef with the law and internal drama, he just bounced. One day he's leading a huge religion, next day he's a ghost. Did he retire to the suburbs? Did his own guys take him out? Or like some fans think, did he just beam back up to the sky? The guy who claimed to be God literally disappeared from his own show. 19. Dorothy Arnold was basically a 1900s influencer just without the Instagram. Rich, smart, and a big deal. Manhattan socialite with a heavy-hitter family. One winter day in 1910, she hits Fifth Avenue for some shopping. Buys some chocolates, chats with a pal, waves goodbye, and then walks straight into the void. Her family, terrified of bad press, hired private eyes instead of calling the cops, which wasted huge amounts of time. When the news finally leaked, the press went wild. Theories everywhere. Was she snatched for cash? Did she run off with some forbidden boyfriend? Did she die during a risky medical procedure which was super dangerous? Back then. Despite searching for years, not a single clue ever popped up. She just melted into the bossing New York City hustle. 20. Getting a landmark named after you is usually cool. For Henry Hudson, it was a consolation prize for one of history's worst exits. In 1611, after a nasty winter frozen in a Canadian bay, yeah, the one that would take his name, his crew snapped. Mutiny time. But instead of just killing him quickly, they gave Hudson, his teenage kid, and 7 loyal guys a slow, icy doom. They tossed them into a tiny open boat in the middle of AT. Freezing water with 0 food and 0 chance. Never seen again. Hudson, the guy who mapped whole new worlds, was left to freeze in his own biggest discovery, betrayed by his own team. 21. The Amazon is one of the wildest spots left. A jungle so thick it eats secrets for breakfast. And its biggest mystery is what happened to Colonel Percy Fawcett. In 1925, this British legend, literally the real Indiana Jones, went into the Brazilian bush. He wasn't just hiking. He was obsessed with finding some mythical lost super city. Fawcett, his kid, and a buddy marched into the Mato Grosso and sent one last message. Then radio silence. Never heard from again. Did they die of sickness or hunger? Did a tribe take them out? Or if you believe the fairy tales, did he actually find his city and just decide to stay? Over the years, tons of rescuers have died trying to find him. 22. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry gave us The Little Prince, that classic about love and heart stuff. But the author's own ending cliffhanger. In 1944, during World War II, Saint-Exupéry was an older pilot flying spy missions for the French. On July 31st, he took off from Corsica to check out France and never came home. For decades, it was a total riddle. Did his plane break? Did he get shot? In the year 2000, they finally found his plane wreck off the coast of Marseille. That told us where, but not how. An old German pilot eventually claimed he shot down a plane that looked like his, but the proof is sketchy. The guy who wrote about stars disappeared into the ocean. 23. Theodosia Burr Alston was American royalty. As the smart favorite daughter of Vice President Aaron Burr, she was right in the power mix. But her life was marked by tragedy, and honestly, the finale of her life was a total head-scratcher. Back in 1812, grieving her kid, she hopped on a schooner named the Patriot in South Carolina, aiming for New York to go cry on her dad's shoulder. Then poof. The boat and every soul aboard just sailed into the void. It never arrived. Now the boring? The answer is, a storm ate them. But the rumor mill went wild immediately. Did pirates snag the vessel? Did she survive and end up as some bandit's trophy wife? On a tropical island. The most bonkers and soap opera theory involves a painting of a gorgeous lady found in a random house years later, which the owner swore came from a pirate loot stash. People are convinced that canvas is the lost Theodosia. 24. Jim Thompson was this American architect and ex-spook for the OSS. The CIA's grandpa who basically single-handedly made Thai silk cool again after World War II. They called him the Silk King. The guy was a total character living in a fancy house he built for himself in Bangkok. In 1967, while chilling with buddies in Malaysia's Cameron Highlands, he went for a quick afternoon stroll in the woods and just ghosted. The search party was massive, one of the biggest in Malaysian history, with hundreds of troops, cops, and local trackers tearing the place apart. But they found zip, zero. Nada. No footprints, no fabric scraps. For a dude with spy-level jungle survival skills to just evaporate on an easy hiking trail is weird on a whole other theories. Theories go from falling off a cliff to getting snatched, or maybe his shady spy past finally caught up with him for a political hit. 25. Dr. Dan Elias was a dude born in the wrong century. He belonged in an 1800s adventure novel. A famous anthropologist and survival pro who chased myths for a living. In 1988, he dove into the thick Vietnamese jungle on a super weird mission to find the Noi Rung, basically the forest people. A legendary tribe of ape men. Think of it as Vietnam's answer to Bigfoot. Elias wasn't some tinfoil hat weirdo. He was a legit scholar. He hired local Sherpas and went deep into a zone still full of unexploded bombs from the war. Then he pulled a magician act. His guide said he just walked into the trees alone and never came back. Did the jungle eat him? Did someone whack him? Or in the most hilarious twist of fate ever did, the monster he was hunting actually hunt him instead? The ultimate survivalist vanished while looking for a beast that might be totally fake. 26. Everett Ruiz was a total drama king, a young artist and poet who was obsessed with the American wild. He was like a character out of a Jack London book except flesh and blood. In 1934, at the ripe old age of 20, he rode into the maze-like canyons of Utah with 2 donkeys and checked out of society permanently. He wasn't lost like a tourist without a map. He seemed to want to melt into the scenery. He left a final campsite and a creepy carving on a wall, the word Nemo Latin for nobody. Was it his emo way of saying he was deleting his identity to become one with nature? Did he trip off a ledge? Or did cattle thieves murder him? Whatever happened, he achieved a weird legendary status, becoming the patron saint for anyone who wants to tell civilization to shove it. 27. Jimmy Hoffa disappearing is basically the holy grail of American cold cases. As the boss of the Teamsters Union, Hoffa was powerful, loud, and crooked as a dog's hind leg. He swam with sharks in D, C, and the mob. After a time out in jail, he wanted his throne back, which made his old gangster buddies sweat bullets. On July 30th, 1975, he drove to a diner in the Detroit burbs to allegedly meet 2 heavy hitters from the mafia. Someone saw him making an angry phone call and then, poof, he and his ride were gone. The FBI has wasted nearly 50 years and millions of tax dollars chasing ghosts, digging up driveways, and listening to dying crooks lie, but they never found the body. He probably ended up part of a parking garage foundation, a permanent reminder not to annoy the mob. 28. Louis Le Prince should be famous right up there with Edison as the daddy of movies. In 1888, he used a custom single-lens camera to film what are arguably the first motion pictures in history. He was about to show this tech to the world, prepping for a big reveal in New York that would have made him a legend. In September 1890, he hopped on a train in Dijon, France, heading for Paris. His brother watched him walk into his cabin. But when the train pulled into Paris, the cabin was empty. Le Prince, his luggage, and his face. Game-changing camera blueprints had evaporated from a moving train. Suicide hitman sent by a jealous rival, maybe someone on Edison's payroll, swiped the tech. It's the ultimate movie plot twist. The inventor of cinema got cut from the final reel of his own life. 29. If you've ever read Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, you know the insane larger-than-life maniac called Dr. Gonzo. That guy was based on a real human Oscar Zeta Acosta, a charismatic partying genius lawyer, and Chicano activist. He fought hard for his people and was a massive icon in the counterculture scene. He was also Thompson's running mate in a lot of chemical-fueled disasters. In 1974, Acosta was tripping around Mexico. He called his son to say he was boarding a boat full of white snow probably, code for a mountain of cocaine. That was the last peep anyone heard. Overdose, drug deal gone south. Or was he a political target? Taken out for being too loud. Like his book character, he lived at full speed and eventually just flew off the cliff. 30. Bison Dele, born as Brian. Williams wasn't your average NBA baller. At the top of his game, fresh off a ring with the Chicago Bulls, this eccentric free spirit suddenly quit at age 30 to go globetrotting. In 2002, he was sailing the South Pacific on a catamaran with his girlfriend and a captain. Also, tagging along was his estranged big brother Miles Debord. Somewhere on that trip, sibling rivalry turned deadly. Later, Dabber just casually rolls up in Tahiti solo, sailing the yacht under his brother's name like he owns the place. He claimed Dele and the gang died in a brawl, but his story had more holes than Swiss cheese. Before the cops could really grill him, Dabber checked out early with a massive insulin overdose, taking the real story of what went down on that boat to the worm buffet. It is a family vacation from hell and a murder mystery with zero witnesses left to spill the tea. Number 31. The vanishing of Hale Boggs in 1972 was not just a missing person poster. It was a full-blown government panic attack. Boggs was the House majority leader, basically one of the biggest dogs in the U.S. yard. He is flying in a dinky twin-engine plane from Anchorage to Juneau, Alaska, with a rookie congressman named Nick Begich. The plane cutting through notoriously trash weather just deleted itself from reality. This kicked off one of the biggest and most desperate games of hide-and-seek in American history. For over a month, military planes and ships combed through that frozen wasteland. But they found zip. Zero. No SOS, no twisted metal, no oil stain. The total lack of clues gave the tinfoil hat brigade fuel for years, especially since Boggs had been asking tough questions on the Warren Commission about JFK getting shot. 2. D. C. Heavyweights just plucked out of the sky. Number 32. Solomon Northup's life is a mix of absolute nightmare fuel and serious grit. A free black man and killer violinist from New York, he gets snatched in 1841, drugged and sold down the river to the Prass, deep south. He survived 12 years of hell on earth before he finally smuggled a letter out to his family and got rescued. A totally insane ordeal he wrote down in his bestseller, 12 Years a Slave. Once he got his freedom back, he did not chill. He went on tour blasting the evils of slavery. And then sometime after 1857, poof, the paper trail ends. Did the bad guys grab him again? Was he taken out because he was too famous? Or did he just get sick of looking over his shoulder and decide to ghost everyone? The guy fought like a lion to get his name back only to vanish. From the history books a second time. Number 33. Of all the VIPs from the ancient, the world few mess with our heads like Nefertiti. That famous bust makes her the cover girl of history, as the main squeeze of the rebel pharaoh Akhenaten. She was a power player in a massive religious revolution in ancient Egypt. She was painted looking like a boss, with a level of swagger rarely given to a queen. Sometimes they even drew her smashing enemies, a pose usually reserved for the big man himself. She was basically running the show. Then around year 12 of her husband's reign, she pulls a Houdini and vanishes from the timeline completely. The mentions just stop cold. Was she kicked out? Did a plague take her out? Or here is the spicy theory. Did she slap on a fake beard and rule as a dude pharaoh for a bit before King Tut took the throne? We have never found her tomb, leaving the fate of this legendary queen as one of Egypt's biggest cold cases. We have just scratched the surface with 33 of history's most bizarre exits. But history is a giant maze of missing files, and we know there is more craziness out there. So we are handing the magnifying glass to you. What is the one freaky disappearance you are screaming at your screen that we missed? Roast us in the comments. If you live for these unsolved mysteries, you know the drill. Smash that like button and subscribe. Thanks a ton.